Edward Irving Koch's life was never destined to be ordinary. Born in 1924 in the Bronx, he came from humble roots, the son of Jewish immigrants who worked hard just to keep food on the table. The city around him was loud, crowded, and unforgiving, but it taught him resilience. From a young age, Ed learned how to stand his ground, how to fight back with his words, and how to never allow fear to dictate his choices. During World War II, Koch served as a soldier in Europe. The experience was brutal. He saw men fall in battle, cities reduced to rubble, and lives shattered. But it also steeled his spirit. When he returned to New York, he carried with him a hardened determination. Life, he understood, was short and uncertain. If one was to live, one had to live boldly. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, Koch had become a rising figure in politics, serving as a U.S. congressman. He was different from the polished, rehearsed politicians of the era. Koch was blunt, brash, and funny. He walked straight into heated debates and didn't flinch. People either loved him or hated him, but nobody could ignore him. But with visibility came danger. In 1973, whispers of extortion emerged. A shadowy group sent threats against him, trying to pressure him, trying to bend him. Imagine Koch, pacing the floor of his modest Washington office, his tie loosened, the sound of typewriters clicking outside as FBI agents quietly interviewed his staff. This wasn't a political squabble in public. It was something darker. Someone, somewhere wanted to intimidate him into silence. For a moment, even Koch must have felt the weight. But he didn't let it break him. He stared it down with that same Bronx-born defiance, telling investigators, "I've been through worse. They won't scare me." The FBI case ran its course, and Koch kept moving forward, his confidence unshaken. But then came 1977. This was not just a threat. This was something far more sinister. One morning, federal investigators uncovered a forged letter. It was written on official Koch letterhead. It bore his name. It even carried what looked like his signature. But it was a fake, designed to frame him, to blackmail him, to destroy him politically. Picture it: a dimly lit FBI office, the forged letter spread out on a desk, agents circling it, knowing the stakes. If the letter reached the public before the truth was revealed, Koch's career could be over. At the same time, Koch himself was preparing for the biggest gamble of his life, running for mayor of New York City. The city was crumbling, graffiti covering subway cars, crime climbing sky-high, garbage piling up on streets, neighborhoods burning with neglect. New Yorkers were desperate for a leader. Koch wanted to be that leader. But as he campaigned, the extortion case lingered like smoke. His enemies whispered, reporters hounded him, and political rivals hoped the scandal would finish him off. He was fighting not just for an election, but for his reputation, his very identity, and yet, Koch had a weapon none of them expected: his ability to connect with people directly. Instead of hiding, instead of retreating behind closed doors, he walked straight into the crowd. He looked New Yorkers in the eye, shook their hands, and asked the now legendary question, "How am I doing?" It was disarming, it was human. While others hid behind speeches, Koch made people feel seen. And slowly, despite the FBI files, despite the forged letter, despite the threats, he won them over. That November, Koch emerged victorious. He became the mayor of New York City, beginning a 12-year reign that would reshape the city's politics. But the FBI files didn't end there. In one strange twist, his name even surfaced in a foreign counterintelligence file. Uruguayan military officials, it turned out, were irritated with Koch. His bold criticisms had reached across continents. Think about that: a New York politician, so outspoken that he managed to rile generals in South America. Through it all, Koch never softened. He was brash, outspoken, and often controversial, but he was authentically himself. He walked the streets of New York, mingling with citizens, riding the subway, visiting neighborhoods most politicians avoided. People saw him not just as a mayor, but as part of the city itself. By the time Ed Koch passed away in 2013, his story had become legend. He had survived extortion plots, FBI investigations, political storms, and even international irritation. And yet, he never stopped being himself. New Yorkers remembered him not for being perfect, but for being real. And maybe that's why his legacy still endures. Koch taught us that leadership isn't about pretending to be untouchable. It's about standing tall when forces try to break you. It's about walking into the chaos of life and asking, with a smile and an open heart, "How am I doing?"